Today I want to answer a very important question, as Penacony is just around the corner and Dan Heng, Imbibitor Lunae, has his rerun. This is a character that a lot of people were super hyped when he was announced, super hyped when he was released, and I think out of any character I've seen the most people like wail on. So it is understandable if Dan is a character you are looking forward to. And full disclosure and everything, Dan is a character who I think last time I checked was still S ranked on the character rankings. He is very much a worthwhile character to have. But unlike when Dan first ran on the banner, there is one slight difference this time. We all got a doctor ratio for free. If you're watching this like in 6 months of the time or in the future, whatever, and you did not get a free doctor ratio, then obviously this does not apply to you. On this current rerun, everybody who's going to be playing right now has a doctor ratio available to them. If you don't already have a Dan, you have this guy, and if you build him, personally comparing the two characters, they clear in a very similar amount of time with the same level of investment. Here's my doctor ratio for comparison. Here's my look, I know his crit damage is really bad. So that's probably what's letting him down here. But my personal experience, they clear in a very similar amount of time. Not really that much difference. Obviously, Doctor Ratio struggles in AoE content, but if you manual it, it's doable, it's fine. He can do it. You have him. He is an available character, which means pulling Dan Heng here is 100% optional, unless you really love this character and you really want him. So, shall we discuss whether or not he's actually worth pulling? Keeping in mind he is an S-class character on the rankings. Okay, shall we? Let's start by going over what he does if you did not know. Okay, first things first. Dan's whole thing is he has an enhanced basic attack. So his skill has 3 presses. Each press will increase the amount of damage he does. His ultimate, when used, will give Dan 3 charges to enable him to use his skill. So his ultimate does a big burst of damage, and it pretty much gives you like 2 personal skill points for Dan to use on his next skill. And then his talent, what does that do? It increases his damage for the turn. Cool. And then his big traces, they're whatever, honestly, they're fine. He has a lot of like crit rate in his core traces, making him a little bit easier to build. But at the end of the day, Dan Heng is a basic attack focused character with enhanced attacks. He requires 3 skill points to do his big oomph, which means he's incredibly skill point reliant, to the point that it kind of cripples what sort of teams you can make. Would I recommend Dan to anybody? Personally, no. Firstly, I would not recommend this character, even though he is an S-class character. If you watched my summoning video for Fusion, you would have learnt that I never intended to get this guy. I got him pure accident. I have wished for 9 limited characters on this account. One of them I got accidentally. And one of those characters is one of the 2 characters I won 50-50 for, and it's this guy. I didn't want him when I accidentally got him. I didn't want him because I didn't think his gameplay looks fun, and having played him since he came out, I can confirm his gameplay is not fun. I don't like him. I get lots of people do. He's a hyper carry character. Yes, he does big damage, but to me it doesn't feel like it pays off that much, and it's probably because my build isn't very good. Like, I don't think this is terrible though. Like, it's almost 1 to 2. It's almost 1 to 2. Now what I'm going to do in the future, and what I do occasionally do, is I go in here, and where is she? I take this And look, it's fixed! Just like that, he looks so much better now. He has, I think he's lost some speed though. Yeah, he has lost some speed on this one. Yeah, look. So let's go talk about him in Memory of Chaos, shall we? Before we do this, we should probably talk about how you build Dan. You might have noticed I have him on a two-piece. So two-piece Wastelander and two-piece Musketeer. I believe you can run him four-piece Musketeer because the second passive, which you will note, is basic attack damage. It increases, not every attack damage. So this second thing here does benefit Dragon Dan's like kit, where the Wasteland set, this here does give a lot of like crit rate and crit damage, but they have to be debuffed in some way. Oh yeah, the crit damage comes from Imprisoned, which if they don't have imaginary weakness, you're not guaranteed to get the crit damage portion. This is fine on him as well, especially if you're running him with more imaginary units, like I run my my Dan with Luocha. But I've personally gone for a two-piece because that's what I had available to me. I had all farmed up because I had some spare pieces from when I built Luocha. They're alright pieces. Like I really like this. This piece is amazing. I think personally, I rolled this like ages ago and saved it. Like I don't have awful pieces. It's these ones that are letting me down. Honestly, I need to work on that. And like this does need to be a crit damage chess piece. Honestly, we can switch it for this one for this example. You'll note that my Dan speed is really low. You can give him speed boots. So many people commented under my blade video, why doesn't your blade have speed boots? Well, for you people, just for you. Look at speed boots now. I believe he still goes behind Bronya, right? Yeah, 28 speed. I might actually be able to get my blade faster than Bronya. We'll see. Back on topic though. He's pretty simple to build. Like if you've got good Musketeer pieces, easy peasy. You should have loads of Salsetto pieces by now. If a Salsetto piece is good for you. But the reason why speed isn't necessarily good on Dan compared to Blade is because Dan eats. He just eats all of the skill points. Him going fast is not necessarily a good thing. Unless your entire team is built to go fast. Like my Ting Young's quite fast, my Luocha is quite slow, and my Pella is quite fast. And you want to know an incredible thing about my Pella? She's really fast and she doesn't even have speed boots. Well, she's not. I know she's not incredibly fast, like at 127, but at 127 without speed boots, I think that's pretty good. You pretty much want all your supports with Dan to go really fast, and if all your supports are really fast, then you can put speed boots on Dan. The important thing is that you want everyone else on the team to be fast, because if they're not fast, then they're not generating enough skill points, and if they're not generating enough skill points, then Dan won't get his triple enhanced thingy-majiggy. I know my Luocha is really slow. I am going to be putting my Luocha on speed boots. To anybody who was concerned about that, it's on my to-do list, because while I have been a long-time lover of Luocha, Memory of Chaos has gotten to the point that Luocha is no longer good. There was a point when Luocha was really good, and it's no longer the case, unfortunately. Unfortunately, Luocha will punish you more than Fastia. It's what it is. Rip to Luocha, you were a legend. Okay, let's go on to it. So, teams. Now, it should be mentioned that Sparkle will be coming out on the second half of 2.0, and she is a unit that provides skill points. Now, after all our recent discussion with units that are faster to supply Dan with more skill points, I am a little bit dubious to how good Sparkle will actually be with Dan on the grounds that if you build your teams correctly, you have enough skill points, and Sparkle's entire existence is about providing you with more skill points. And he also, I believe, has to use a skill every turn, which then questions how useful her 4 extra skill points is. I think it will depend on how quickly she can get her ultimate back. If Sparkle has a 2-turn ultimate spam, then I think she'll be really good, but I'm still questioning how likely you're going to need that many skill points for Dan, honestly, especially if you already have your teams built to provide him with lots of skill points and he's already doing incredible damage. I'm a little bit dubious. I'm just a little bit dubious. I feel like even though Dan eats all the skill points, that he'll require the amount of skill points that Sparkle requires if you've already got your optimal Dan teams, right? And what is Dan's optimal teams? Well, obviously, it's Ting Yun. He wants Ting Yun. Now, for the sustain slot, I actually can use either Luocha or Fushuan. It depends what I'm feeling, what's on like the side. Well, actually, it usually depends on what's the side and which side needs Luocha more, rather than more than anything. I know people be like, shouldn't it be who needs Fushuan more? No, it's who needs Luocha more. My Fushuan is much more likely to die than my Luocha. Fushuan's fine with Dan. I can find it sometimes a bit awkward with the skill points, but usually because you have your skill activated at the beginning of the battle, timing wise it should work out fine with Ting Yun's skill and all that. And then the 4th slot is usually Pella. Pella's great in the 4th slot because she does defense shred. Really, you don't have a lot of options in the 4th slot. You can use Hanya, she's fine. I don't really find her additional skill points that helpful because you have to use her skill regularly. He's really slow, so her speed doesn't feel that great as it could be if he was a bit faster. Like her speed buffing him up to 165 or whatever it is would work better. I'm not convinced on Hanya. It just hasn't felt good the times I've played her with him. Asta doesn't necessarily require skill points, and honestly, you do get like +1 additional skill point or like +2 additional skill points on your team like every other turn, because when Dan uses his ultimate, you have extra skill points to use, so you can like have reasonably good uptime on Asta's skill on the rotation, but it's very rare that you get Fire and Illusionary together, so you don't really run Asta with him that much because Asta's best for the break, and I think her speed buff does get him up to the next skill speed point. I know Hanya's does as well, but I just haven't liked the Hanya with him. It hasn't felt super necessary. Like that's what puzzles me about Sparkle, because I played like this team and I have spare skill points, so it's like, why do I need Hanya? That said, playing him with Luocha, I imagine feels way better than playing him with Ho-Ho. Ho-Ho requires, I believe, a skill point like every 2 or 3 turns to keep her cleanse up, where Luocha obviously just does it just provides skill points on the side, like passively. He just all of the skill points. Obviously, Hill would be better damage wise, but this is a much more brainless team because you never ever use Luocha's skill unless you're running Luocha like me, and by the time Luocha's turn comes, everyone's nearly dead. Don't run Luocha. Don't do it. Obviously, you can have Rune May in here. She works really good and stuff. He is flexible enough as long as you don't have another unit that requires skill points. I've seen people run him with Bronya, but you need E1 R1 Bronya to run it with him, and even then, because Bronya's skill point on her skill isn't reliable, he doesn't feel very good with him. And again, if Sparkle is a character that requires you to use a skill every turn, even though she gives you 4 skill points back, if she's got like a 3-turn ult, she's going to be using 3 of those skill points. Which means you're just popping her ult just so she can skill rather than so Dan can skill. I'm unsure about Sparkle with him. I'm more confident with Sparkle with QQ, but I'm not very confident about Sparkle with him. And I'm not pulling Sparkle on my account. It's not my intent to. I don't really like playing Dan. I only do it in Memory of Chaos and Swarm because like the game makes you. But now I've now got Doctor Ratio, and I'm gonna make my Doctor Ratio super strong, so I never have to use Dan ever again. That's my intent. Right, let's just show him off. I'll have to run you a second side. Argenti, I guess. Now I have chosen a bit of a luxury team here with Runmei and Luocha. Obviously, you can use Pella instead of Runmei. It's fine. Pella's really good. Pella's really strong. And if you don't have a 5-star Bane unit, I would probably use Natasha over Lynx, even though Lynx is better, because he's a destruction unit. Lynx will cause Dan to get taunted more, and Dan doesn't exactly have a lot of health, so I wouldn't do it. So what's quite normal, if we had like Fu here instead of Runmei, is Fu would have her thing on the ground for a turn. What you classically do is pop Tingyung's ult, and honestly, I feel like doing this and then this is better. That means you got more skills for the rest of your units. I probably should have done this first, that's true. You're right, game. I'm not very good at manualing this. See, here's the benefit of Luocha. You never skill on Luocha, like, ever. So good, and I do still recommend Luocha over Skit if you're like wondering. He's pretty good. But as you can see, like, he does really solid damage, like 100k, and my guy's not even built very well. So we've got onto this turn, and this is when we need to use a skill. Fortunately, Tingyung has her ult back, which means we can just pop his thing again, bash, and it's not a problem. He's had his turn, and we have enough skill points to continue our rotation. Like it's clockwork. It's comfortable. It's very comfortable. This. Oh, that's gonna make Dan go first, isn't it? Oops. Ah. So we should. Oops. Oh well. Oh well. I have never claimed to be good at Memory of Chaos. I know we have no skill points. Oof. It's fine. That's fine. I think Rumei's ult speed buff has thrown me out of whack, honestly. Oops. And now we have no skill points. Big oof. It's fine. It's fine. This is me doing bad more than anything. Get the field down. So as you can see, like, most of the time, a slow Luocha is fine. Like, honestly, quite fine. Like, we're at the point that we have a equilibrium of skill points. Because Luocha is too slow. And he's too slow. He's probably the main reason this team isn't working as well as it could do. I'm not popping Luocha's ult because I feel like I should be responsible and save it for his turn. We're out of sync. I don't know how we got out of sync. It's fine. I could have popped his ult. I thought his build was going to go away. And no, we don't have any skill points. So this is the frustrating thing. You run out of skill points. Maybe Sparkle will feel better. I'm not getting her. I refuse. I refuse to get her. Oh. I thought his turn had ended. Whatever. When we're out of skill points again. Where have all my skill points gone? Why? I think it's because Dan's too fast. This is a weird problem to have. My Dan is too fast. If I position auto, it'd work out fine. I don't usually manual battle at all. Let's restart. Let's restart. So, like I was saying, he is a frustrating unit to use. Honestly, it is probably a skill issue. Let's face it. I'm okay at building characters. I'm not too good at the turn-based stuff. I want to build my characters so I never have to press buttons. I think that's a good old... Oh, see, the game didn't even wait for Ting Yun's turn. Usually it does. That's weird. But like he does, like as you can see, he does really good damage, and when compared to Dr. Ratio, who's a single target damage, honestly, I feel like comparatively, Dr. Ratio's damage is not too dissimilar. You've got to remember, like, a lot of Dan's big numbers here is because he's hitting 2 targets, and so he's getting additional damage on the second target. Where if it was like Dr. Ratio, he could easily hit like 120k on one unit in one turn, and then on his next go, do 120k on the second unit. Like, just because he's hitting 2 units, like that's 80k across 2 units. If you split that into 2, that's 40k per unit. That doesn't actually sound as much if you look at it at that way. It's just you're seeing the numbers on the screen is the amount of damage hitting all of the units, and thus it looks really, really impressive. Oh dear, no, Ting Yun! Luocha, why? Did he not have his heal? I guess he didn't. And this is the issue of Luocha. This is the issue with slow Luocha. Don't do as I do. Build your Luocha with speed. Build everyone with speed. Everyone go fast. Unless you're my Pella, in which case, good job Pella hitting that first speed break without any speed boots. We respect you. Now let's talk a little bit about light cones and stuff. Obviously, Herta's light cone is a really good option for him. It's what I have on my Dan. Otherwise, I don't think like you can just put anything on him. I think it's all fine. It is worth mentioning as well. With Sparkle coming out, I do feel like the more invested you have in your Dan, the less value Sparkle will have, because Dan, I believe, has a Ting Yun, like a 3-turn ult. I can't remember. I think it's. I'm not paying attention. I think it might be 2 with Ting Yun, or it's 3. I think it's 3. He was just spamming it there, wasn't he? Because Dan has like a 3-turn ult, my brain has broken. Because Dan has a 3-turn ult with Ting Yun's assistance, his light cone gives him increased energy recharge, which I believe, off memory, Ting Yun, why have you died again, gives him a 2 ult turn, or makes the 3-turn more smooth. I can't remember which. I think it's 2-turn. If you're Dan Heng main, you can correct me down below. But his signature light cone gives him energy recharge. Now, the more that Dan ults, the less skill points you need. Like, if you run Dan in Simulated Universe with lots of speed with a lot of the hunt blessings that give energy recharge, or any blessings that give you energy recharge, you never run out of skill points because he is just ult spamming. And that is another consideration if you're thinking of getting Sparkle for him, because if you have invested in your Dan Heng, you've gotten his signature light cone, I think Sparkle will be a lot less valuable for him because you could just run Bronya instead. And if you have Bronya, who has 100% advance forward, and you're running your Dan very comfortably with her, why do you need Sparkle? You don't need the skill points. I think we're going to hear a lot lately about how busted and broken and great Sparkle is for Dan Heng over like the next like couple of weeks as people look at her kit and stuff, but I'm honestly not convinced she will be. I just think she'll just be okay. Like, she'll be good if you haven't invested in him, if you don't have his like E2 and his signature light cone. But if you're thinking about getting Sparkle, it might just be better to get his light cone. Unless you're like a QQ main, in which case, yeah, get Sparkle instead of his light cone. But his light cone does increase his ability to do the ultimates, which, you know, is what he needs to skill more. And the more skills he can do, the more damage he can do. Now, there is argument that if he can ult more, then it's worth building like speed on him. My guy's only slow, so I can feed him more skill points. The problem with making him fast means he eats more skill points. This is going really bad. I think I used Dr. Ratio on this originally. This Memory of Chaos is kind of built for him. Anyway, like, I have cleared this one. It's these two that I have struggled on. I'll get to them, honest. So yeah, in conclusion, Dan is a very powerful unit. He's very strong, but even though he is very strong, you have to build your entire team around him. You have to build your teammates to go really fast so that he can use more skill points. I'm not convinced that Sparkle will alleviate this issue he has with skill points, making him better to use, because he's just that hungry. And I'm pretty sure to get Sparkle's main benefit, you're going to have to use skill points on her as well. I think if you don't have Luocha, then Sparkle will definitely have decreased value, because if you need to use a skill on Ting Young, if you need to use a skill on Sparkle, and you need to use 3 skills on Dan, and you don't have Luocha, you will not have enough skill points. I do not care how many skill points Sparkle provides you, you will not have enough skill points. I don't think you could run a Hyo or comfortably any other sustain unit in that team. You could probably run through Swan fine because she requires less skill points than Hua. But I feel like if you want the most comfortable team there, you're gonna want Luocha. And everybody says Luocha's been power creep. No, I think Luocha's a character that provides a lot of comfort, especially in teams like Dan, who eat skill points. Like double DPS teams, Luocha makes them just so much more comfy because he requires none. It has a lot of value for a team. This is not my why is Luocha worth it video. No, sorry, I'm getting off track again. Dan requires a lot of investment. Straight up, he requires so much investment to make him good. So much. You don't need his signature light cone, but he will be more comfortable with it with his rotations. He does need Ting Young in his team, like every single team. If you're running Dan, then you cannot afford to have Ting Young in another team on the second side. If you got an imaginary on one side and physical on the second, sorry Argenti, you are not getting Ting Young. If that is the case and you need Argenti on the second side, for whatever reason, what I would suggest is you rack up Argenti's speed to go as fast as possible, because while he does require that energy, the more turns you go, the more energy you get, and Argenti isn't skill point hungry. You can throw Asta and Hanya on his team to get his ultimate back quicker if you do not have Ting Yun to power him, which is, you know, pretty good, I think. Even though Argenti is a greedy hyper carry, he is not as greedy as Dan Heng. That's what makes Dan Heng not particularly enjoyable to use or build, because you have to build all the other units around him. And if you don't have the increased speed on your units to do his rotations really well, then it just feels really bad. He doesn't have enough skill points every turn. Eventually your rotations will fall out of whack, and you'll have like several rotations where you don't have enough skill points because like one person on one turn 2 people needed a skill point, and that's the entire thing blown out of proportion. It's just like, he's a unit that's hard to auto battle with, which doesn't make him very enjoyable. He is, on the other hand, he feels really good in Simulated Universe, like Swarm Disaster and stuff. Like the whole propagation path's really good for him, but you do have to complete Swarm Disaster to do it, and completing Swarm Disaster is a pain. It's not an enjoyable experience, especially if you're a casual player. It's no fun to do. Very grindy, and I think Swarm Disaster is a much weaker DLC compared to Cogs and Gears, whatever it's called. Just because at the end you have to fight a boss with only 2 weaknesses, or if you won the RNG on the first boss and got the elemental type that you wanted to fight it with. Otherwise, if you didn't pull Dan on that banner, good luck clearing the Swarm Disaster. I guess everybody can do it now because they have Dr. Ratio. I guess you also have QQ if you invested in QQ, but QQ kind of needs constellations to get really, really, really good. I'm sorry, I kind of got a bit waylaid, and I feel like I haven't covered a bunch of stuff I usually cover in these, so sorry. But like, he is a good unit, but he requires your love, your dedication, and your everything to make him the powerhouse that gets him that S-class rank. And I think, like, on one of the ranking tables, I think he went down like a peg, even though his damage is like really good, because of that level of commitment to build him, because it requires you to have these units at really high speed. I'm just highlighting that my units are quite like high speed here. I don't have slow units. It's only Luocha letting the side down. If I had like run Fushuan instead, it would have probably worked out a little bit better. Like, he requires everyone to be fast and built around him. And even then, like, you don't have enough skill points to let him go fast. And maybe Sparkle will make that easier. Maybe. I would say, if you're thinking about getting Sparkle for him, maybe wait, or at least build yourself your QQ so you have 2 units for her to go with. Because I'm unsure. I know he will probably be a really good unit. She'll be very good for like Sele, at least. Very good for QQ. I'm not convinced she's gonna be good for Dan. That's it, really. Would I recommend pulling him? No, not really. build Dr. Ratio, build your Welt. This guy, he requires everything, and it's no fun to play him unless you enjoy him. If you enjoy him, good on you. He's just not the kind of unit I like, and I didn't want him, and I have him now. You can come take him off me. Unfortunately, he's stuck on my account. Well, no hate on him. Like, he's cool. I love Dragon. Very cool guy. I just do not enjoy his gameplay, and I would not recommend it unless you have played him on like the trials and stuff and enjoyed him. Obviously, like, he's cool. He looks cool. He's very powerful, he's very strong, but you have Dr. Ratio now, so you don't actually need him. So I can't actually recommend him at all, unless you really, really like the gameplay, or you've been playing Dr. Ratio and you feel like you do need that AoE imaginary because you haven't got Welt or whatever. But even then, like, Aventurine's going to be coming out in like 2 patches, and he's probably going to have some AoE imaginary application as well. So that makes it even harder to recommend Dan Heng. Whatever, do what you want to do. He's strong, like, everybody knows that. I'm just saying, like, he's just hard to work with. Like, really hard. You have to be dedicated to him. If you've got that dedication, then go ahead, pull him. You deserve him and he deserves you. Alright, that's enough rambling from me. I'll see you soon in the next video. Goodbye!